Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Suck It, Fill My Bucket show. So happy to have you with me today. I am slightly discombobulated. I'm not going to lie. This is mom life though. So I'm showing up raw and real and doing all the things. I have a sick kid and family coming into town tomorrow. So I'm so excited about that. But I'm also really excited about this topic that we are talking about today. And I'm live inside my group. So if you guys are live with me, I see a few of you already hopping on. Comment, tell me hello. Tell me you love me. I love when your energy is with me. And we're going to keep it short today because I have a lot going on and you have a lot going on and I value your time. And so I actually have like multiple sticky notes here to keep me on track so that we're like on the same page here. So in case you're new to the podcast, I'm Christina. I am your host, and I am a mom of 4 kids, and a medical mom is one of the hats that I wear. I'm a wife. I am a creator and founder of a few different groups for moms to support and empower each other, which I just love. It's like where my heart is at and where my passion is helping moms who are on a journey. Because if you know anything about my journey, I won't get into it too much now, but if you have heard anything about my journey, it has been a roller coaster. It has been a trip, my motherhood journey. And I don't know what I would have done without the support and empowerment of so many other moms that came alongside me and was like, hey, this is how you do this. And I'm so, so grateful because we're not born knowing how to do a lot of this stuff. And a lot of us weren't taught. We have to figure it out. So that is where this podcast comes into handy when you are feeling like you need a pick-me-up and like everything else in the world is crazy and you need somebody to say, hey, remember to take care of you. Remember to fill your bucket or everything else is just going to fall to shit. That's just the truth of it. Like, that's why they tell you on an airplane, if you guys are crashing and going down, put on your oxygen mask before you put on somebody else's, because it can save a whole bunch of lives if you are able to be healthy. And so that's the same premise that we're working with here. So in order to do this, to feel authentically happy, because anyone can get onto social media, to Instagram, to Facebook, to TikTok, and put on their best face and pretend to be somebody they're not. But that doesn't help anybody, right? So when push comes to shove and we're like elbow deep in diapers and teenage attitude, we need to have some resources to pull from, and not just some resources to pull from, but a baseline mental health and physical wellness that allows us to be able to cope with the craziness and all the things that are going on in the world, right? I feel like I've got like angelic energy coming from this side. I love it. Okay, guys. So today, diving right in, we are going to be talking about the bullshit beliefs that a whole lot of us carry around. And I don't know if you have seen Forgetting Sarah and Marshall. It's a movie I probably wouldn't want my mom to know that I have seen, but still super funny. And this clip that I just showed was from Kristen Bell, the actress in the movie, saying, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. No drinks for me, please. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. And so whenever I hear the word bullshit, that's like what comes to my mind. And it makes it more like lighthearted for me, because the other word seems a little aggressive sometimes, you know, like if you use that, it's like, oh, okay, she's serious right now. So we're going to use bullshit for today because it's fun, right? And it brings a lighthearted energy to a topic of like calling out some things that don't need to be a thing, but are definitely a thing. And I know this because I talk to hundreds of moms, sometimes thousands of moms, and I hear this across the plains. So I'm going to address some of these. We are going to break down a couple bullshit beliefs because it's just not necessary. And if you can release it and move on and delete that programming from your mind, then your baseline. Remember, we talked about baseline, and we talk a lot about that in the medical community. What is a patient's baseline? And so for Caden, my son, his baseline for heart rate is a certain amount, right? And so if it is raised and elevated, his baseline heart rate, let's say it's like anywhere from 70 if he's sleeping up to like 120 if he's active, right? So if he's wearing a pulse ox and we know that his heart rate is 150, that's above baseline. That's like he's not doing so well. That's a flag that something's not okay, right? If we hydrate him, his baseline goes a little bit down because he's more hydrated, blood pressure is a bit different, and so his heart rate is a bit different, right? So when I'm talking about baseline, I'm talking about where like the plane that we currently exist on or regularly exist on. And that doesn't have to be at a certain spot, right? Like our baseline might be at, like, if we're talking about climbing a mountain and, elevating, we might be at base camp, right? Like our baseline is at base camp and we're not going anywhere because we're just prepping. We're just preparing ourselves. We're making sure that we're healthy, that we're rested, we have everything we need in order to be able to go up that hike. Sometimes we're stuck on a cliff somewhere and we need some help to get out, right? I use a lot of like stories and metaphors because I'm the mom on the climb and that's what I do. So when we're talking about raising your baseline, it's getting you to getting any of us to exist at a place where we can handle stress better on a daily basis, right? And so we don't have as many flare-ups and freakouts and screaming matches and losing our shit, because our baseline for our resistance is higher. And so we can do that by releasing some things that really don't serve us. So Booshit belief number 1 that I would like to slam and let go of today is that busyness of mind is necessary for motherhood. Now, I told my son, my oldest son, he's 16, and I was talking to him about meditation and various things that you can do for your mental health that can bring your baseline to a different place. And so I was talking about how my mind is often like, it feels like a freeway, like shoo, 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 shoo. And so if you think of your brain having pathways, which it actually does, they're called neural pathways, technically speaking. And those pathways are caused by doing certain things over and over again. And so it's just like if you're on autopilot. And so every day you drive home from work the same way. And one day you're supposed to stop off at a different place, but you go straight home because you're just on autopilot. That's just what you do. That's why people struggle from PTSD. Been there because we have a stimulus and a conditioned response. So we hear a sound or a sight or hear a story or something, and the stimulus goes through our mind, through our pathway, and we have a response to that stimulus. And if it is somebody that has had trauma, then it's a certain sound or a circumstance, and it seems really, really hard to break because it's conditioned. It's a conditioned response over time. And so PTSD is a really extreme example, but we all have conditioned responses, even if we've healed from PTSD, which I have. So if you have a conditioned response of also known as a routine, possibly, maybe you wake up in the morning and you always do the same things, you always do in the same order, and that is a conditioned response to your stimulus of being awake. And so it can be really easy to get on autopilot, but these things that we do over and over again turn into programs. Our mind is like a computer database, and we do something over and over again, or a traumatic incident or something that was highly emotional happens, then it creates a conditioned response in us and a program in our mind that we think is difficult to break. There are ways to hack that and make it instantaneous. I actually happen to know how to do that because I went on a huge journey for healing. So if you want to know how to instantly reprogram yourself, hit me up because I've got some great tools. We're actually going through some of that in my upcoming 3-day challenge, Happier Mom Project. So stay tuned for more information on that. So here's my question to you. Question number 1 in all of this is, what are your neural pathways? What are your conditioned responses? What are your mental programs saying? And you can figure this out just by observing your thought patterns over a period of time, a day, a week. The more time you give it of just witnessing yourself with curiosity and not judgment, the more time that you do that, then it's more clear what your conditioned responses are and if those are serving you. You might have some that are great and really serve you and serve those around you, but you may find that you're like, oh, I need to clean up this energy a little bit because it's not good, right? So when we're talking about our brain and having these neural pathways, back to my story with my 16-year-old, I was telling him that sometimes it's like a freeway system. It's like shoo, 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 shoo. And my brain is going in a million different ways. Tell me in the comments if you can relate to that. Well, doing certain things like meditation, for one example, can slow, that's one of the ones that I like the most. It slows my brain patterns and brings energy to a different part of my body, which I'm focusing on with intention. And it actually leads me from chaotic freeway system in Phoenix or Denver here to me just walking along a path all by myself out in the forest, and I'm just calm and centered, and the busyness of everything else, I know that it's still out there, but it doesn't impact me. I'm protected against all the crazy energy, and I can do that anytime I want. And so it's a matter of where I choose to put my intention and my attention and what I'm choosing to focus on. And so I'm going to ask you that question today. What are your neural pathways? What are your conditioned responses? And are they serving you? Because this idea that we have to be constantly busy hinders this idea that we can be calm and quiet and at peace within ourselves and still be productive. And so when I figured out that busyness doesn't equal productivity, and that busyness is actually a hindrance to my own personal empowerment and enlightenment, I was able to slow my roll and stop wearing busyness as a badge of honor and start prioritizing the things that are really important to me and the things that can wait, so that I'm not doing all the things. So find your truth. That is my suggestion number 1 for breaking Booshit Belief number 1, that you need to be really busy in action or in mind. And that's necessary for motherhood because we have so many things going on. If you're a list person, great. I'm a list person, but that doesn't mean that I'm always busy. It means that I've put things in a list so I can now delete it from my mind. It's on paper. It is prioritized. And I don't even need to think about it because it's not top on my list right now. And so doing things like list building has been super beneficial for me and so many others. This isn't my idea. I adopted it from other people. That has helped me to put down the busy, put down the idea that I need to be busy all the time, get it out of my head. It's there for when I'm ready to pick it up after I've checked my other things off of my list. But I can be productive without having to be super busy. And that is a game changer if you can adopt that practice. Booshit Belief number 2, I need to do and be all the things. Now, we talked last week before that, with Stephanie Polson about wearing all the hats and doing all the things. And we do have all these hats that we have to wear. For me, I have the medical mom hat and the teenage mom hat and the long distance mom hat and the wife hat and the volunteer hat and the business owner hat and entrepreneur and the writer and all the things. And so it can be really easy for me, and I know so many others, to be like, I have to do all the things, like if I don't do it, it's not going to get done, which first is just bullshit. I'm calling bullshit, because we're not more productive when we're doing all the things. We're just not. It makes us exhausted and burnt out at best, terminally ill at worst, and ultimately just not happy. And so then we start saying, oh, I'm out of my mind. I'm losing my mind, right? And I want to say to you today that if you're feeling that way, you're not out of your mind. You're out of your heart. You're just out of alignment. Because if you're feeling exhausted and overwhelmed and burnt out, that is information. You can take those feelings and use that as information to create a different choice that creates a different outcome. It's really very simple, but we don't think that we can do it. We think we have to do and be all the things. It's bullshit, 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 bullshit. Just get in alignment. So there's a Mother Teresa quote that I love, and it says, give the world the best that you have. And it may never be enough, but give the world the best that you have anyways. And so it's this idea that sometimes we can get overwhelmed with having to do all of it, that we say, I'm not going to do any of it. Just forget it. I'm too tired. I'm too tired. Tell me in the comments if you can relate to that. I'm too tired. I'm not doing it. And the idea is just to give the world the best that you have. Give your family the best that you have. Give yourself the best that you have. And if it's not good enough for somebody, if it's not good enough for you, that's okay. Do it anyways and assume that it is good enough. And so it's that idea of just doing your best and surrendering the rest of it to a power greater than yourself. Surrendering what you're putting out there, the best that you can give in that particular moment, giving that to the greater powers, and that will be rewarded for sure. So don't try to be all the things. Just pay attention to the most important things that make you feel good, because when you feel good, you can attract more good into your life. This is truth. Okay. This isn't bullshit. This is truth. Okay. Bullshit belief number 3 to break down. I need something before I can be happy and healthy. This is a bullshit trap, my friends. We have lived this way for so many years. Generation after generation, we get seen it, and we get shown it, excuse me. We have seen it time and time again. And we may get told money doesn't buy happiness, material possessions don't buy happiness. But there's a lot of other things like people and relationships and all these things that we say, once I do this, then I will be happy. And honestly, we get in this spot where we feel like, what am I waiting for? Or we feel like we're in a waiting room for somebody else to do something. Either God, I'm waiting on God to act. I'm praying and this isn't coming true, right? Or we're waiting for somebody else to change. I can't change my circumstance because my husband is like this, or I have kids that are like this. And what I found that was super impactful for me is that maybe, just maybe, all the powers that be and energy of the world, because we're energetic beings, we live in an energetic world. This is truth, right? All of those things can either work cooperatively with us or against us, depending on how we choose to live and talk and think and breathe. And so often I'm just waiting, I'm praying and God is like, not yet, or it's not coming true, or I'm waiting for my husband to change, or I'm waiting for my financial circumstances to get better. I'm waiting for my kid's cancer to get better, or I'm waiting for my son's surgery, or all the things that we can be waiting for before we feel like, okay, I can just breathe and enjoy life. And what we're going to find is that there's always going to be something. There's always going to be something that is happening in life. Right? Life is good. Life is great. Life is beautiful. But we live on a human earth where there's contrast, and tragedy happens, and addiction happens, and pain happens, and illness happens. And at some point, we have to take our power back and say, I'm not a victim to my circumstances. And maybe, just maybe, the powers that be are waiting on me. Maybe whatever needs to happen is waiting on me to meet it there, with my beliefs, with my actions, with my vibrational alignment. if you understand that. And so we can start little by little with baby steps to take our power back and to not live in a place of insecurity or fear or discontentment, waiting for the next thing to come along that's going to make us happy. Because if that's what you're waiting for, it's not going to happen. We can't get from there. You can't get from there to there, right? Like you have to have the magic combination to unlock it. And what's interesting is that we weren't taught often, a lot of us as children or as teenagers, it definitely wasn't taught in school how to live with intrinsic happiness, regardless of your circumstances. It just wasn't taught to us. And so at some point we have to take our power back. And we do this with a few things. The first is radical self-assessment, waking up and just being aware of what you're saying, what you're doing, how you're acting. That doesn't mean that you're going to act great all the time, but when you don't, or when you do, you're aware of it. You can take a better inventory knowing what's going on. It's like having a business and having no idea what your inventory is. You can't run a successful business that way, right? It's like there are so many different ways to explain that your awareness of yourself, my awareness of myself, my partner's awareness of themselves, that self-assessment and awareness is the key to setting healthy intentions that will get you somewhere, because intentions are ultimately what gets us somewhere. So take your power back by radically self-assessing your life, being willing to receive that power, which seems pretty simple. Like, why wouldn't I want to take back and receive any power that's given to me? But often we're afraid. It's easy, right? It's easier to stay where we're at than to create a change. We know what broken and unhappy feels like. We know what poor and traumatized feels like. We know what depressed and anxious feels like, and it's safer to stay there, and it's more practiced. So it takes some intention in saying, I'm going to switch things up. I'm going to do things differently than I've done it before. I'm going to reframe some beliefs. I'm going to reprogram my thoughts and my subconscious mind so that my baseline just functions at a different level. And those things will create radical shifts in your life. And what I love about them is that they're just baby steps. It's a baby step to do a self-assessment. It's a baby step to join a challenge with other women that you are going to meet and love and grow, and that they can support you. It's a baby step to book an appointment and a soul chat with me to talk about how to reframe those thoughts and subconscious beliefs. These are just really small steps that, if done with great love, can lead to massive impact in your life, right? So, bullshit, blocked, okay? So I want to make the note again that life happens and that few of us learned how to be intrinsically happy, but the great news is that it is a skill that we can learn. I'm proof of this because I'm nothing special, like at all. And if I can learn these things with my history in mental illness and addiction and anxiety and PTSD and trauma and all the things, like if I can do it, then trust me, you can do it. And when you come at life with that type of humility, then nothing will shake you, either discouraging talk from other people or praise when you do something well. You'll just be on an even keel so that you're not bouncing around all over the place as much. And so just like if you wanted to learn the guitar because you felt like it would make you happier, you would go into it assuming that you needed to learn something, right? Like you were going to need an instructor, or you were going to need to take a course or buy a book on Amazon, right? Like so you were going to need to do something to learn how to do something that you don't know how to do. And so on that note, I encourage you to sign up for the Happier Mom Project Challenge that I have coming up. It was actually going to be in December, but I was listening to my own self and to the moms that were around me. And as much as I loved the idea of doing this before the first of the year, I know how us moms work. And I know that until the presents are unwrapped, until the family is out of town, we're going to be we're going to be split in our focus. And I really, really, really wanted everything to die down first so that for 3 days only, you could show up and just reclaim and reframe and reprogram yourself to happiness. And there's ways that you can do this by accessing the parts of your brain that have the programs in your mind. It's really interesting. I won't get into the science of it now, but I will deep dive into it a tish in the challenge. But I am really excited about this. Some things that I've learned over the past few years that I've taken on my own personal practice and journey, and that has been really, really helpful in just helping me to be intrinsically happy, to not need everyone else around me to be able to be behaving in a certain way for me to feel good. And sometimes that's still a struggle. Sometimes people's behaviors and attitudes get the best of me and I'm irritated. But that's also information for me to go back to what I said and self-assess. And when I'm irritated like that and when I'm not feeling happy, I can say, okay, Christina, well, what can you take responsibility for? Where are you lacking? And I can see, well, haven't taken my supplements in 2 days. And I know that that really impacts me. I haven't, I did wake up a few minutes earlier than everyone else to center my brain, but I didn't do my full morning routine where I did yoga and I read and I journaled it out and I did 10 minutes of eyes closed, silence, and meditation. And when I do a combination of all those things, it's like magical for the rest of my day. And so then when I can notice how I'm feeling, Christina, you're feeling irritated with everyone else, then I can say, okay, where am I lacking? What can I do to take responsibility for this and not say, well, if my husband wasn't acting like this and my kids weren't acting like this, and if I had more money in the bank account and if my kids were healed, it's just like, holy cow, you live on earth, Christina, right? Like not everything is going to be perfect. And you have to find a way to be happy. And it's a skill. It's a skill that you can learn that I have learned. Again, I'm nothing special. I am not perfect at it, but it has had enough of an impact in my life that as I'm engaging with all of you, and my life has turned to a place where a weekly podcast episode is tangible for me. I want to share these things. I want to share these things that have made a huge difference for me, because this is the age of self-education. This is the age of mental wellness. This is the age of enlightenment and being able to evolve once again from where we've been to where we want to be, and releasing beliefs that don't serve us is the first key to do that. So if you want some freebies on how to design your life, on some meditations, you can check out my website at www.therippleimpact.net. And you can also get access to the Inner Circle, my Inner Circle clan from there. And that is a smaller group of gals that hold each other to some accountability that we offer, deeper relationship building. There's a much bigger plan for that in the future, which I'm pretty excited about. But baby steps. I'm all about baby steps and trusting that everything will happen in its due time. So the show notes to be able to sign up for that Happier Mom Project Challenge. The link for that is in the notes, so check that out. And I will definitely be circling back to connect with you all. And I hope you enjoyed our episode. Booshit, booshit, booshit. And I love you so much. I'll see you next time. Have a Merry Christmas if you celebrate that. Happy Hanukkah, happy holidays, whatever your jam is. But take some time to really think about the things that we talked about here today. Excuse me, need some water. Really, it's just about quality of life. That's it. It comes down to what kind of quality of life do you want to have while you're here? How do you want to live your days? And are you willing to take some steps to do that? Or are you just a whiner? Choice is on you. You have the choice at any time to say, suck it. I'm filling my bucket and I'm going to do what's good for me so that I can be overflowing to everyone in my life and create a ripple that starts with me and my family and ripples outward. So love you so much. Hope to see you at the challenge, and we'll talk soon. Thank you so much for absorbing this today. And before you go, one more thing. If you can't tell, I'm on a mission to create a ripple impact in the world, starting with each mom at home, helping her thrive her life her way. If this podcast resonated with you, please leave a review. Make sure you subscribe and share it with your friends. If you're interested in working with me, book a soul chat with me in the show notes, or head over to my website at www.therippleimpact.net. Have a great day, and I'll see you next week. With love as my guide, I'll see you next time.